What if you made a horror movie but with good acting and decently written characters? Crazy, I know, but maybe just crazy enough to work. To me, that sums up why The Conjuring 1 and 2 were so good. But James Wan's first attempt at this bizarre formula came 3 years earlier with Insidious. After working with writer Leigh Whannell on Saw, Wan wanted to do something less graphic and more atmospheric. He re-teamed with Whannell, and they had the idea to dive into the world of astral projection and dimension traveling. You had me at hello. Insidious was another box office hit, making over $100 million worldwide, further cementing Blumhouse as the go-to studio for low-budget, high-profit horror. And permanently inserting this guy into the nightmares of millions, maybe? Or do people just find him silly? I can't tell. What do I think of Lipstick Face Demon? Keep watching to find out. Part of what propelled this movie to success is that, at the time, a more straightforward ghost in your house movie was a breath of fresh air. Look at the 2000s. It feels like a lot of Saw-type movies, a trend started by Wan and Whannell themselves. Ring-type movies add a dash of zombies, a little found footage, which picked up again in '08 with Cloverfield, just a year before Paranormal Activity had its wide release. By the time you get to 2010, I Think There's a Ghost in My House has a nostalgic ring to it. Insidious tells a familiar story, but tells it with strong performances and direction, and with writing that makes the characters feel grounded. It also introduces a creative new addition to horror lore, something called the Further, and mythology that, for better or worse, provides more explanation around ghosts. Now join me in leaving your physical body behind as our spirits head to a strange, insidious place. The movie starts on a light hanging from a ceiling. The camera spins around and pans down to a little boy sleeping. Oh, so scary. Or at least the tense horror music wants you to think so. The camera swoops through the house to a strange woman in the dark holding a candle, watching the little boy. And actually, I'm terrified right now. Even the title card is scary. There's no context to the start of this movie, but it needs none, because it presents something so familiar. We've all laid in bed, heard a strange sound, or seen a figure in the dark. We tell ourselves there's nothing there, but the hairs on the back of our neck and the piloerection says otherwise. What? Piloerection, the involuntary contraction of tiny muscles at the base of hair follicles. What do you call them? Goosebumps? Insidious tells us, yes, there is someone watching you in the dark. After the credits, we meet Rose Byrne's character, Renee Lambert, and her husband Josh, played by Patrick Wilson, who later plays Ed Warren in The Conjuring. Renee gets out of bed and heads down the creaky stairs. Love the open floor plan? More space means more room for ghosts. All the unpacked boxes tell us they just moved in. Or they're like me, where unpacked boxes tell you literally nothing about how long it's been since the move. She looks through some old photos when their son Dalton comes down to complain he doesn't like his room. She invites him on her trip down memory lane, but disappoints when he asks to see younger pictures of his dad, because they don't have any younger pictures of Dad. Younger pictures of Dad? Newsflash, all pictures of you are pictures of you when you were younger. I want someone to hand me a picture and say, here's a photo of me when I'm older. God, I miss Mitch Hedberg. Later in the morning, Renee deals with the kids. In addition to Dalton, their other son Foster and baby girl Callie, all while Josh deals with something much more important, that stubborn gray follicle.
Every time I think I've pulled you out, you grow back in.
You know it's bad when you're making dad jokes to yourself. At least I do it in front of an audience. Josh is a likable enough guy, but first impressions matter, and we meet him snoring in the background while Renee is awake, looking tired and overworked. It presents him as a little less available than she needs at the moment, and it carries into their waking life too.
Are you not going to take the boys to school?
I can't today.
Are you going to pick them up?
I can't. I got a PTA meeting. I totally forgot.
Why didn't you tell me?
Josh isn't a bad guy, but he's imperfect in a way that feels real. And by having Josh be a little too absent, a little too absorbed with work, Renee will be more on her own, which sets up for more effective scares in a house that'll soon be haunted. Once Josh and the boys leave and Callie is napping, Renee finally takes some time to herself, singing and playing piano, until she's interrupted by crying on the baby monitor. She goes upstairs to calm Callie when she hears a creaking noise coming from the attic. At least it isn't the basement. Actually, I don't know which is worse. I guess the basement because it's underground and usually that's where we put dead people, though the attic might have more physical danger, like when Ethan Hawke fell through the floor in Sinister. Renee heads upstairs to check it out, but nothing. I think, right? Juan tends to shoot these scenes with a wide frame, so you're automatically looking around the room for a hidden ghost or ghoul. What the hell even is a ghoul, by the way? I know what ghosts are and monsters, but ghouls, no idea. Later, someone else checks out the attic. Dalton. He's playing upstairs when some unseen force opens the attic door, so he does the only natural thing and checks it out. Only he can't quite reach the pull cord to turn the light on, so he climbs up a ladder where one of the rungs is broken. He falls and hits his head. Then he hears some creaking coming from a dark corner. He looks, and downstairs they hear him shout. They hear a bang. The parents run upstairs to find a boy with a hurt head and leg, but seemingly okay otherwise. James Wan often uses shaky cam for a more grounded documentary feel. It also allows for contrast, because often when there's a ghostly presence, the camera gets more controlled, and you notice it. That, along with score and sound design, allows for the vibe shift, where things suddenly feel off. Night falls again. The camera checks in on each room like it's playing Five Nights at Freddy's, before settling on Dalton's, where it pans up from him to the window. The creepy music, the floaty camera, and the memory of that lady in the window from the movie's opening all contribute to the haunting atmosphere. There's no visible ghost yet, but that's one of Wan's talents, suggestion, allowing our minds to fill in the blanks. The next morning, Dalton doesn't get up. Dad tries to wake him, but he won't budge. At the hospital, yes, they say he's in a coma, but an inexplicable one. Brain scans are all normal. It's like that episode of Arrested Development.
Buster's in what we call a light to no coma. In layman's terms, it might be considered a very heavy nap.
Could that mean that he's faking it?
Oh, highly likely this is fake. Although there doesn't seem to be very much brain activity.
No, that's him.
3 months later, Dalton is yet to wake up. At least he's home now, along with all the tubes and equipment. Renee is worse for wear and can barely bring herself to play piano.
Can I play the piano anymore?
No, you can't. You're too sad. Her non-playing is interrupted by static and whispers on the baby monitor. She turns it up and... And that's why I don't have a baby monitor. Also, I don't have a baby. The whispers continue. I want it. Give me it. Give me it. I want it. I want it now. The last word is no longer a whisper, but a shout, heard not just over the monitor, but from Callie's room itself. Now Renee is certain there is someone in Callie's room. Jump scares are easy. Get the audience to focus so the loud noise startles them, but they get extra points when they're clever. The baby monitor allows for escalation, so the scares can happen in stages. First, it's just the monitor, so maybe interference. Then you hear it physically in the room, and finally, the shout, which punctures the veneer entirely. Renee runs upstairs to find the baby crying, but nothing particularly amiss. One weird thing later, though. Foster wants to know if he can change rooms. He just doesn't like how Dalton walks around at night. Remember, Dalton's been in a coma for 3 months, so that's weird, and oh god, when kids calmly say something horrifying. Like in The Conjuring. Hey, who are you talking to? Oh, I'm just talking to Rory, the kid who died here 50 years ago. Or in The Exorcist, Reagan and Captain Howdy, who is actually the demon Pazuzu.
Who's Captain Howdy?
You know, I make the questions and he does the answers.
Oh, Captain Howdy, yes.
It works so well because kids are creepy, but also they're stupid, so they can imply something sinister without realizing it. Instead, we fill in the dark, insidious blanks ourselves. Later that night, just as Renee is telling Josh about the weird experience she had today, someone bangs on the front door. And as a millennial, nothing scares me more than the doorbell, or God forbid, someone actually knocking. That's when you hit the deck, hold your breath, and hope no one figures out you're home. Josh checks it out, and no one's there. Upstairs, Renee hears Callie crying on the monitor again, so she heads to her room, and aside from the dead guy standing over the crib, nothing. Renee yells for Josh, and suddenly, no dead guy. Alarm goes off, Josh heads out of the room to find the front door open again, then the damn alarm goes off again. The next day, Josh has to stay late to grade some tests, and why is Jigsaw on his chalkboard? Fun Easter egg from Juan and Juanel, who also directed and wrote Saw, or planting the seeds for an eventual crossover? No, it's the first one, but Jason Blum has teased the idea of an Insidious Sinister crossover. So, not really relevant to this, but later Rose finds a bloody handprint on Dalton's sheets. Pretty concerning, and I'm sure her husband would be there if he weren't so busy grading those damn papers, and he's asleep at his desk until he wakes up to a voicemail from Rose asking him to please come home now. I mentioned the strong performances in general before, but a lot falls on Rose Byrne specifically, and she's great. Like this moment where she's talking to the nurse and you hear just how drained she is.
He's not in a coma. They don't know what to call it. They don't know what to do with him, so they've just given up.
When Josh returns home, Renee asks why he's suddenly working late every night. His answer is simple. He's got to pay the bills. But she's scared. For Dalton and of the house.
You think our house is haunted?
I don't think it. I know it. Things move around in here by themselves.
She can feel eyes on her in the middle of the night. She can't be alone here anymore. She needs him, but he's never there. And I can't relate to this at all. Also, babe, if you're watching, I promise I'll come home soon. I just need to make 31 videos for October, which is more than I usually make in an entire year. But you know, it's the subscribers. They're making me do it. Now, as much as I can't relate to this at all, it does feel real to what couples often experience. One is not available as the other would like or requires. The arguments that echo and never end. Like when Rose accuses Josh of avoiding stressful situations, and you can tell it's something they've fought about before.
God, stop saying that, okay? I don't avoid stressful situations. I'm just dealing with them my own fucking way.
That night, it's the sofa for Josh. Renee, meanwhile, dreams. Floating over Dalton, a hallway with candles, handprints appearing on the window outside her son's room. She wakes up screaming, and while she gathers herself, a dark figure frantically paces outside her window, until suddenly he's in her room. The man screams and reaches for her. So creepy, especially since it's built on something that's already unsettling. Someone pacing anxiously is contagious. A ghost pacing is apparently way worse. Josh runs upstairs and nobody's there. Just Renee pleading with him. She can't live here anymore. Except this is a horror movie, so there's no way they'll actually move out, right? No one ever does the smart thing and leaves the haunted house. First off, let's cut the smug attitude, okay? And second, what's that? Yeah, that's a Penske truck. You were wrong. They are moving. I love that. And does it work? Well, unfortunately not. While Renee arranges things at the new house, someone changes the song on the stereo, and she spots a ghost, a little boy in old-timey clothes dancing. I'm sure this kid is real popular in the afterlife. Oh, you managed to cross over to Earth for a few minutes? What'd you do? Did you check out the new Switch too? I hear there's a new Donkey Kong. Oh no, I put on Tiptoe Through the Tulips by Tiny Tim and danced. It was awesome. After that, the kid treats her to an impromptu game of hide and seek. I'm always a sucker for turning an overly happy song into a creepy one. My only complaint with this scene is I'd find the kid a lot scarier if his giggle didn't sound so fake, like something you'd find searching child giggle in a free audio library. Josh comes home to find Renee and a priest.
First line of a joke, right? Guy comes home to find his wife with a priest.
And the priest leaves. I get that this is meant to show her desperation. She isn't religious, but now she's spooked enough she'll turn to the church. But it all happens so fast, it feels like an awkward aside. Renee tells Josh the bad news. The thing haunting them was not left behind at the old house. It is still with them. He's skeptical, while his mother is a believer.
What's happening to Renee is real. I've seen it for myself.
Actually, the reason she came today is thanks to a dream she had last night. She was in their house. Everyone was asleep, and she checked on Dalton, only to find a thing in the corner, tall with sharp fingers. She asked, "Who are you?" And it answered, "A visitor." "What do you want?" It answered, "Dalton." As she tells him this, she glances up, and it's here now, peeking from behind Josh. And remember earlier when I asked what a ghoul is? That is a ghoul. The demon behind Josh moment is on one hand iconic, and on the other hand, so overexposed it's become a meme. Oh, the part where Darth Maul cameos? I saw the movie years after it came out, so I can never experience this moment in its true form. Maybe it would have scared me, or maybe I would have thought, lipstick face demon, lame. But it is definitely creepy in silhouette when we see it in the mother's dream. It's that uncanny valley where the thing is almost but not quite human, especially the long, sharp fingers and the creaking noise that accompanies its movements. It's especially effective because until now, the things we've seen have all been human. Dead, yes, but still people. This is the first truly inhuman thing we've seen. Also, I love Josh's fed up reaction. It feels very real, how you would react if everyone around you kept screaming for no reason. Then, noise, like things are being flung around Josh's room. They run to the door and find it shut, but the knob moving frantically. Josh crashes through it to find a room in disarray, and Dalton on the ground, but okay. Or at least no worse than before, still in a non-coma coma. On the sheets, another bloody handprint, and this time, violent tears too. Renee begs for help, and Josh's mother, Lorraine, does know someone who can give that help, if they're willing to ask. A woman named Elise, though she sends her assistants, Specs and Tucker, ahead to do some preliminary testing. Honestly, the first time I watched this movie, I was worried when I saw Lee Wanell show up as Specs. Saw was another movie he wrote and acted in. I'll just say I thought he did a better job writing than acting, but his role in Insidious doesn't require nearly as much emotional range. In this movie, he's mainly comedic relief, along with Angus Sampson as Tucker, and I enjoyed them in the movie. They help prevent things from becoming too bleak as we delve into darker territory.
Where is Elise?
She sent us ahead to do some preliminary tests.
Helps weed out the nut jobs.
Sometimes they border on cartoonish, but it never fully crosses the line for me. In their testing, looking at changes in UV light with a modified Viewmaster, Tucker spots a couple of come play with us ghosts. The scariest part? The way they change their expression by flash frame with no perceivable movement. With Tucker satisfied the haunting is real, they call in Elise, who somehow already knows Josh. Apparently they met when he was only a child. Josh has no memory of it, but Elise and his mother Lorraine go back a long time. Elise looks over the house and senses the presence. In Dalton's room, she looks up and we hear a creaking noise, the same one Lorraine heard in her dream when she met the visitor. Elise can see it. She describes it, and based on that description, Specs sketches. Elise's diagnosis? Their son is not in a coma. Have you ever heard of astral projection? Elise calls them travelers, people who can leave their body and wander in astral form. Dalton is apparently an accomplished projector. Before the coma, he was doing it in his sleep, but thought they were dreams, so he wasn't afraid to wander far. Too far, into a place she calls the further. That's why it seems like he's in a coma. His spiritual body has left his physical one. What is the further? A world beyond our own, yet all around us. A place without time as we know it.
Is a dark realm filled with the tortured souls of the dead. A place not meant for the living.
With Dalton stuck there, His body has become an empty vessel, and there are entities which can smell it. They've gathered around him because they want to take over that body for the chance to live again. So that explains all the disturbances. The ghosts Renee has been seeing are some of those spirits, and that's why leaving the house accomplished nothing. They weren't haunting the house, they were haunting the empty vessel that is Dalton's physical body. But those spirits are the least of their problems. The red-faced thing is different. It is a demon who seeks Dalton's body for one reason alone, to cause pain to others. Of all the entities hoping to capture the vessel, that demon is the closest. This is where the title comes in, by the way.
But there are other entities who are malevolent and have a more insidious agenda.
She explains the rules. The ghosts cannot simply take Dalton's body. It takes time and energy to cross over from their realm. But the longer Dalton's astral body is away from his physical one, the weaker the link gets and the easier it'll be. The explanation is a double-edged sword. The rules satisfy curiosity and add to the sense of realism, but also make the proceedings feel less strange and otherworldly. At least there's the promise of the further. Now we've heard about it, but haven't actually seen it, so the movie plants curiosity and dread, because we know we're going there later. At this point, Josh has had enough. He was willing to move for Renee, willing to listen to this dog and pony show, but this is obviously all nonsense. He kindly but firmly brings the session to an end. That night, Josh sits over his son's body. He asks him, "Can you hear me? You gotta show me that you can hear me." On cue, a drawing falls off his wall, a drawing of the demon. On that wall, he sees more drawings of it, a red door, and even some writing. "Last night, I watched myself sleep." The drawings prove Dalton was experiencing all the things Elise described before the coma. I'm glad Patrick Wilson gets a chance to shine as an actor here too. His performance makes this such an emotional scene. That's also thanks to the writing and direction, which sets the realization that it's all true during a vulnerable moment, where he's hoping against hope that his son can hear him, and so much of it is communicated without dialogue. The truth comes from children's drawings, rather than something cheesy like a disembodied voice.
Homer, where are you?
I'm somewhere where I don't know where I am.
Now, Josh believes it. He's ready to ask for help. Elise comes over for a sort of seance. She wears a gas mask-looking device with a tube leading into Speck's ear. She'll whisper while he repeats her words for the other's benefit and writes everything down. And contact is made. She speaks with Dalton's spirit, but only briefly, because Dalton is too afraid they will hear. And soon they do. The room is chaos. Ghosts appear. Dalton's body walks around until Elise shouts for the thing that's taken over to leave this vessel. It works. The chaos ends, and Dalton's body falls, once again an empty vessel. I love the gas mask thing. It's hard to explain why such a thing is necessary, but having an unusual tool there somehow adds to the realism. Usually in movies, the scene just has someone close their eyes. If there is a spirit present, let it be known. No, that's BS. Insidious shows you how it's done for real. You need a mask with a tube. The mask and tube also turn Elise's whispering into strange, ethereal sounds, further adding to the atmosphere. After that, it's time for the truth. Josh's mother, Lorraine, admits why she knew to call Elise. It's because she called her before. Years ago. The reason Dalton is a gifted astral projector is because he inherited it from his father. When Josh was 8, he suffered night terrors and talked about an old woman who used to visit him at night, a woman we saw in the movie's opening. This is how we find out that scene took place years ago, and the sleeping kid was a young Josh. Lorraine dismissed Josh's stories until she noticed every time she took a picture of him, she was there, the old woman, and she got closer with every photo. That's when Lorraine found Elise. That old lady was a parasite who befriended Josh's astral body and drew him out to the further. The only way to stop her from taking over his vessel was to suppress Josh's memory and ability of astral projection. As for those photos, Lorraine hid them. That's why they had no pictures of him as a kid, and why to this day he subconsciously fears having his photo taken. Now, to save Dalton, they only have one option. Josh needs to rediscover his ability. He needs to go out there to the further and bring back his son. Through hypnosis, Elise helps him leave his body. He finds himself in a place like our world, but dark. He walks through a door into a place so dark it's like a void. I've actually been there, by the way. No, actually, in Florida. Anyway, Josh wanders the dark Oh, you want me to clarify? Yeah, one of the haunted houses at Universal's Halloween Horror Nights in 2024 was Insidious themed. It was the creepiest haunted house I've ever done. They perfectly recreated the aesthetic of the further, so you're walking in a pitch black room except for a red door that genuinely feels like it's floating in front of you. Josh wanders the darkness until he sees Dalton. No, not Dalton. It's himself as a young boy. Little Josh points at a house, and Big Josh heads inside. He sees creepy things. A ghost in a dress, a giggling boy, a crying woman, an old family frozen in time where one member of said family kills them all. Josh is scared, jump scared, and disturbed as he makes his way upstairs to a red door in the dark. One he recognizes from his son's drawings. He stopped from entering that door when an angry spirit grabs him, someone they met before during the chaos of that seance. Josh fights the thing and gains the upper hand when Elise, in the real world, reminds him that he's stronger than them. He's the one who is still alive. He pushes the man away, then enters the door, which leads to a hallway Renee once saw in her dreams, a red hallway filled with candles. Through it, Josh finds his boy, his terrified boy, who is looking up at a window at the demon's makeup room. Good thing he's too busy sharpening his nails to notice them, and he's staring right at them. Then he's next to them. I've seen a lot of reviews that complain about the final act of the movie, and I get it. It is a little cheesy when someone strolls in to explain everything like Elise did. On top of that, after the buildup of the further, I couldn't help but feel a tad disappointed. If they're going to venture into a place not meant for the living, I'd hope for something more surreal, something almost beyond the comprehension of a living mind. It really does strip away the uncanny if Josh can literally get into fisticuffs with a ghost. Where it does claw back surrealism is when we catch the demon in his makeup room, as the script calls it. He's listening to the Tulip song while sharpening his nails, surrounded by children's toys, dolls, and a puppet that seems to be dancing of its own accord. This gives me a sense that the further isn't just a dark facsimile of our world with dead spirits frozen in time, but is also its own dimension where demons dwell, like some version of hell. Though I think I'm in the minority on this one, in that people generally consider the demon cutting his toenails or whatever cheesy. I think that's just a defense mechanism. People are so terrified, they laugh and try to convince themselves, this is stupid, right? It's funny, ha ha ha. In the script, by the way, when Wanell mentions the dolls, he writes dolls, including one white-faced, black-haired doll we recognize. I assume he's referring to the Jigsaw doll and planned on including it here as an Easter egg until they decided to put it on the chalkboard instead, which I think was the right move. Here it would have distracted from the immediate threat of the lipstick-faced demon. There's a scuffle with said demon, but Josh manages to grab his son and run. Time to wake Josh up? No, Elise cannot do that. He has to find his own way back. Josh struggles to do that in the dark, surrounded by shadows of the dead. Renee calls out to him, and they follow her voice. In the real world, the lights go out, and some of the ghosts start crossing over. In the further, Josh and Dalton are separated. The boy is chased by the demon, but manages to make it to his body and wake up. As for Josh, he sees the old lady from his childhood and confronts her. He isn't afraid of her anymore, and he demands she leave him alone. Now, he wakes up too. The family is reunited with their son, awake again. It's a happy ending for all. Renee, Dalton, Elise, the old lady. The old lady? Yes, Josh never made it out of the further. The old lady successfully took his body while it was vacant. Elise suspects as much and tries to prove it by taking a photo. The ghost does not appreciate that, and using Josh's body, strangles her to death. Renee finds her dead and Josh gone, but on the camera, she sees it. The old lady in Josh's place. Renee feels a hand on her shoulder. It's Josh, reassuring her that he's right here. As far as setup for a sequel, I don't mind this ending, but as the conclusion to this story, it feels a tad unsatisfying. The old woman who terrified Josh is something that wasn't introduced until late in the movie, so watching him confront her now feels like a tacked-on attempt to add more catharsis when getting their son back would have already been enough emotional closure. So instead, you get the feeling she was added as sequel bait, so the movie could end on a gotcha with Josh possessed and Elise dead. It also felt weird that Josh would stay behind to confront the older woman, leaving Dalton to try and navigate back to his body on his own. He just got his son back. You think priority one by a long shot would be get him back home. Instead, he just tells Dalton to go on ahead without him, then he stays behind to confront the old lady. Maybe he was afraid she'd come after them, so he's like, you go ahead, I'll distract her. But if that's the case, it wasn't made clear. If he was worried that she'd try to possess him again, even still, get back to your body, then talk it over with Elise, the expert. You've avoided the old lady for decades. No need to confront her now, half-cocked. Yeah, that all felt a bit contrived, but overall, this is a solid ghost movie that scares thanks to a well-crafted world with real characters, combined with Juan's talent in building a creepy atmosphere, and Wanell's creativity with concepts like The Further. Even if The Further's execution ultimately disappointed, its presence as an idea in the movie, and just the image of a dark place with floating doors and demons cutting their nails, lingers in mind long after the credits roll. All of that makes Insidious a ride worth taking, even if Juan would improve on the formula a few years later with The Conjuring. Month of Terror continues tomorrow with The Curse of Frankenstein.